And welcome to the Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Samueli. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, and it is time for our weekly live stream. And so, welcome, Peter. And how are things in Moscow? It's getting a little cold now.
First snow of the year, the season,
Terrific.
but it's wet snow, so it's like the worst of all possible snow because it's just really wet, dank, nasty business. Nasty business. But it's not cold enough to freeze.
No.
Okay, so it's like slushy rain. Okay, it's
Sure.
like the worst of all weather because I like winter. I like when it gets below zero, everything freezes, sun comes out, perfect winter day. Okay, but we have the worst possible weather right now.
Yeah.
And they're homebound. Their union contract says no. This weather, no, you don't have to go out. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of winters. As I've said many times before, it's not so much the cold that gets me down; it's the short days.
Darkness.
Those are really they get me really down, and it goes on month after month after month of this sunless days.
It gives you an excuse to drink other than water.
Exactly. It does give you an excuse to drink because the evenings are very long. I mean, the evening starts in the middle of the afternoon. So, but anyway. On the international front, we had the news in the last 24 hours that the United States will be deploying its anti-missile defense systems DJ says, woof, woof, he's already chipped in a little bit of money for your hounds. So that's good. I think they'll be reasonably satisfied. They're never really happy, but this time they'll be a little bit satisfied. So here is the CNN story. Okay.
That was my trousers check. Okay.
So here's the CNN. So can you see this?
Yep.
Okay, you can see it. It's okay. And you can see U.S. to deploy 100 troops to operate the advanced missile system in Israel amid heightened tensions. So not only is the U.S. about to deploy this THAAD anti-missile system, but with it come these 100 troops to operate it. So 100 American troops are going to be sent there. And here we have the report. U.S. will send an additional advanced anti-missile system, U.S. troops to operate it to Israel, quote, to help bolster Israel's air defenses following Iran's unprecedented attacks against Israel on April the 13th, and again on October the 1st. And then we have approximately 100 U.S. troops deploying to Israel to operate the THAAD battery. It is rare for U.S. troops to deploy inside Israel, but this is a typical number of troops to operate an anti-missile defense system. The THAAD system is specifically meant for anti-ballistic missile defense and could help Israel better defend itself against a future Iranian attack if Iran decides to respond to an Israeli strike. So the thing about that right away is that the United States is inserting itself right into the middle of the conflict.
Why? Exactly what Netanyahu wants.
Exactly what, that's right. But right away, there's almost no debate, and as there never is when it comes to Israel, as to, hey, you're putting American forces right in the middle of a international conflict involving two countries that are not the United States. And when United States has not come under attack, and when the United States doesn't have any kind of a military treaty obligating it to come to anyone's assistance. But right away, they make this decision. Essentially, the United States is fighting on behalf of Israel, and thus endorsing everything that Israel has done up until now, everything in Gaza, everything in Lebanon, and then of course its various assassination plans. So it's quite a remarkable development.
Yeah, well, because the October 1st attack, remember, it was played over and over again. Joe Biden, maybe in a flicker of clarity, saying it was absolute failure, nothing got through, blah, blah. It was a complete lie. Most of them did get through. Most of them did what they were supposed to do. We have Jeremy Lafredo and other journalists were hunting down the results, and they got in a lot of trouble for it. I hope we can talk a little bit about his case later on. But the Iranian strike was very successful, and their anti-missile defense system is left wanting. That's why the THAAD is being sent with American troops, which is, of course, a tripwire. Okay.
Right.
The Biden administration is volunteering to go up the escalation ladder. So, yes, we can have this propaganda of success. Israel's winning this battle, winning this battle, winning this battle. Okay. In a conflict, you have your wins and your losses. Okay. You can have win battles and lose battles. Okay. But you got to keep your eye on the ball. It's called the whole war. So Israel has found itself in a very precarious situation. Hezbollah, for all intents and purposes, reconstituted itself. At least it's firing missiles into Israel, pushing deeper and deeper in. Now Netanyahu is going to have to contend with the displacement of about 250,000 Israelis now. The number only gets bigger here. So this is a very ominous sign, everyone.
Right.
It's not like, oh, they're just sending over this system here. This is kind of, no. First of all, 100 troops, American troops, and plus this THAAD system. George and I are not military experts. We don't ever pretend to be like other people. But, these THAAD system, they have one in South Korea, and that is more, even though it's a powerful defense system, but it's more of a message that we will defend. Okay. Right. But in this case, it's probably going to be used. In South Korea, they don't want to use it. It's a deterrent. In this case.
But the interesting thing is that that they say, well, we will use them against Iranian missiles, but Iran isn't going to launch Iranian missiles. Israel is preparing to use the missiles. So it's the situation where we're making a preparation for Israel to launch an attack against Iran, which will largely be up to Israel. I mean, it's not like America does. I mean, there's all the stories in the papers. Well, Biden has said, well, don't hit nuclear facilities. Ease up on the oil refineries. We don't want oil prices to go through the roof just before an election. But we know that Israel isn't going to listen to anything that the U.S. administration is telling it. So therefore, essentially, the U.S. is underwriting an Israeli attack against Iran. Well, that's a very serious business, again, because essentially there's no declaration of war, and the America is basically going to be on the hook, because if Israel launches a serious attack, and it's very likely to launch a very serious attack, then there will be a serious retaliation. And once American forces are already there, we know that that's going to lead to a serious American retaliation. So, particularly if Americans start getting killed, which is again quite possible, then there'll be again a serious retaliation from America. So essentially, the Biden administration has put America into a situation of effectively declaring war against Iran. All this without any kind of debate. All this without any kind of a congressional authorization. A quite remarkable development.
Meanwhile, who is Putin visiting with? The newly inaugurated Iranian president. Okay, and if you look at the readouts, at least what was released to the media, to the public, you don't have to read between the lines all that much. Is that Russia's got Iran's back? I mean, it's pretty clear. Okay. I mean, I can't pronounce the Iranian president's name very well. George, you're good with the names, but he's a heart surgeon turned politician, and so he wasn't particularly articulate. He was talking about mutual interest and things like that. That's very standard stuff. The Russian side was a little bit more articulate, and so it's very clear that lines are being drawn here. And I've said repeatedly that Russia will not let the Islamic Republic fall. Okay. Now, does that mean? What does that mean? Well, I don't know exactly in military terms, but we have since I think August, July, August, the significant air defense technology being moved and transported to Iran. Where in Iran, of course, we can't say, but this is a serious business. And because the THAAD system needs American personnel, the Russian equivalents use Russian personnel. So we have a situation where, missiles can be going in both directions here, and it's the Russians on one side and it's the Americans on the other.
Right. I mean, it's hard to know because, again, these kinds of readouts from the meetings, they talk, again, there's a lot of big talk. If Russia were ready to get involved in that way on Iran's side, like symmetrically what the United States is doing for Israel and then Russia is doing for Iran, that would be a major escalation on Russia's part, because Russia has basically taken a very even-handed approach, at least when it comes to the conflict between Iran and Israel. It hasn't really wanted to insert itself, beyond various rhetorical flourishes, but it's wanted to maintain this good relations with Israel. I mean, that's clearly something that the Putin prizes and has prized repeatedly over the years. So this would be a very major shift in Russian policy if essentially, it would be putting its thumb on the scale of Iran in its conflict with Israel, something Russia has been very reluctant to do.
But George, there's the important caveat here. What other country is Russia been very close to and very public? China. China cannot afford to lose Iranian energy imports. It just can't. They just simply can't. And I think this strategic relationship that Russia and China have, Putin is speaking for it as a collective to Iran. So, the plot thickens, everyone. Okay. And this is part of a gambit that George and I have been talking about since we started this podcast. Okay. You can obsess all you want about Ukraine, but it's only one piece on the board. There's a lot of moving pieces in that right now.
Right. No, that's right. In a way, with Israel, there's a certain symmetry between Russia's relations with Israel and America's relations with Israel, because it's not at all clear that Israel does anything for Russia in terms of just Russia's geopolitical situation. It's a kind of, as with the United States, it's a sentimental, cultural, historical attachment. Particularly, Putin has said that this is a huge Russian-speaking community. When you think of basically the countries of the former Soviet Union, where they've been trying to extirpate the use of the Russian language, he says, well, in Israel they actually use the Russian language. It's almost like an official language now in Israel. So that's part of a sentimental attachment, even though geopolitically it doesn't make a great deal of sense for Russia to align itself with Israel, because if you look at who are Russia's partners in the Middle East, they're certainly that they're the ones who really don't have no love for Israel.
Yeah, but it's also interesting. I think it was at the end of last week. Things are happening so quickly that Putin turned down a call from Netanyahu. Okay, that's Netanyahu can get pretty much anybody he wants on the phone. He can't get Putin on the phone. Okay, how many times has Netanyahu gone to Sochi? Quite a few times. How many times has Putin gone to Israel? I don't think he's gone there once.
No,
Okay,
no,
so
no. I mean, there's no question. Israel doesn't do anything at all for Russia. It's entirely an attachment to, the basically, hey, we Russian, or the Russian Jews kind of created the state of Israel, and we feel a certain attachment to it. But essentially, Israel doesn't do anything at all for Russia. It's not does nothing at all to advance Russia's
and
interests.
that's what makes it, because people constantly are asking me in a very critical way, what about Russia? Why isn't Russia doing it? George just laid it out there. It's a really kind of bizarre, complicated relationship.
Right.
I over the years living here, I've known a lot of dual citizens, Russian Israelis, okay? And for every single individual, they have an individual take on it, okay? And of various degrees, and the ones that are far more critical are the ones that actually came back and said, "No,
Right.
that place isn't for me." Okay,
Right.
but George is right. I mean, it's really difficult to make sense of it because it's so multifaceted. I mean, I think even I wouldn't be surprised if there are flights going back with Tel Aviv and Moscow. Tel Aviv, it's just there's such a huge human bond,
Right.
and like I said, many people that I've known living here are very sympathetic to Israel. I wouldn't necessarily call them Zionist.
Mm.
I've never really gotten to that level of conversation, but there is an attachment to Israel that it's kind of like talking to Dershowitz or uh, Ben Shapiro. Just don't go there because you're not going to make any sense of the conversation.
Right, right. No, I think so. And there have been all sorts of stories um, about Putin's own personal history that, in his days in Leningrad, that he had befriended some Jews, and that, he had a kind of almost, he had a kind of vicarious father who was Jewish, and that he was something, he was a bond that was formed very early in his life towards the Jews, and that so therefore he's had a particular attachment to Jews really from his earliest days, and I think that's why it would be very difficult for him personally to make a change in policy. Maybe some other leader wouldn't be so difficult, but I think for Putin this would be quite difficult.
Yeah, but let's kind of even it out here a little bit here. Hamas is shortly after the Israeli genocidal assault on Hamas. Hamas leader was in Moscow. He had meetings with quite a few people. Obviously, very public, cordial relationship with Iran. So, I mean, I just want to make clear with everyone. George and I are talking about certain personal sentiments, but when it comes to policy, Russia's policy is really quite clear when it's dealing with what's called the axis of resistance versus Israel.
Right. No, that's right. However, I mean, I have to say, I've been a little disappointed that Russia and China haven't really been proactive in the way that they would have been back in the Soviet era. I mean, where's the Russia-China peace plan? Where's the Russian-China proposal for an international conference? The Russia-China demand that everybody show up and we're going to bang heads together. Even if it fails, it at least would be some kind of a diplomatic initiative that people would have to respond to.
And there's a precedent of North Korea. There is a Russia-Chinese proposal on the table. I absolutely agree with George. I mean, I would, and maybe because it's only a few days away, maybe there will be a BRICS proposal coming out for Ukraine, come out for Palestine. But George makes a good point. Okay, I think that if we want to go deeper into that, I think where are the Chinese? Okay, I mean, Russia is always left to carry the water.
Yeah, that's a very serious issue, because why is Russia always doing the heavy lifting? China kind of benefits from Russia in all sorts of ways. Russia's kind of resisting Western encroachments. Russia's resisting NATO. Russia's resisting U.S. hegemony. And China kind of derives the benefits, but then really doesn't do much in the international sphere. All right, you're not doing fighting, you're not sending any arms, but at least you could do some, diplomatic heavy lifting.
Yeah, well, Barack Obama was telling some people to step up.
Yeah,
Okay, well, I
exactly.
think
Step up. Yes.
China can step up a little bit.
Speaking about Barack Obama,
Did you see him when he was at that election headquarters? What happened? I mean, this guy was a shell of himself. What was going on there?
yeah,
He
he's
looked
aged
bad.
great. He's aged enormous. No, I mean, I know it's. I mean, yeah, obviously he
He's
aged in.
younger than I am, George.
Yeah, that's right. Because
Okay?
because okay, presidents age in office, and he aged in office, but he's been out of office now for a number of years. Then they get back into kind of a healthier look. But he really looks quite old now. And so given how easy his life is, I mean, it's not like he's gallivanting around the world, on all sorts of.
You think he's had to open a door or carry a bag or a suitcase? No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all.
I think so. I think he does look very, very strange. I mean, I was a little taken aback by how he looked. But I mean, I want to talk a little bit about polls and everything, but um, I still think that really the more the Democrats are coming to the conclusion that Harris is in very serious trouble, that she can't recover from the situation, the more likely it is that they're going to do the switcheroo to push Biden out. 3 weeks to go, and the best opportunity for pushing him out is if there's war. Hey, you're not a wartime consigliere. You're not a wartime
You
president.
heard it here, everybody. You heard it here. George and I don't know, we're unique in it, but I hadn't heard anyone else come up with the idea. We've been pushing this, okay? I mean, it's all falling into place, isn't it?
Right.
It's all falling into place. And Kamala Harris is in trouble. She is in trouble. And, George mentioned this before, and maybe it's before the time for a lot of people watching this, but, there were certain elections. The 1981 was a very specific one. I can remember very, my first election. And there was this feeling that it was changing, and then it was like a huge pro-Reagan wave. I mean, it was literally like 6 weeks, 8 weeks out. It was, I don't know, it could go either way.
Yeah, absolutely. It could go either way. Yeah.
And then it would just start. It was like a storm that just picked up and just annihilated. And I feel the same thing going on right now.
I agree.
Not that Trump deserves it. Not me.
No, but for all his, I mean, for all his weaknesses, he is quite focused in his speeches. I mean, he talks constantly about immigration, which is a big issue for him, and about trade and all the tariffs he's going to hit everyone with. Those are the two messages. I mean, yeah, all the rest. I mean, I don't care if we're constantly saying Harris is stupid. I mean, just stupid and childish.
Harris is a communist. Just
Well, that is really, really dumb. That can't do that. But as long as he keeps focusing immigration and trade, that's the message people are getting, and he's going to look after us. He's going to protect us. He's going to protect us from cheap labor. He's going to protect us from cheap imports. And I think that is working for him because it is focusing. So he's not getting distracted by television celebrities or whatever. He's actually focusing on the message. But for the problem, why I think Biden may be shown the door, is that he doesn't like Harris. He's very angry about the way he was treated, and he's not doing anything for Harris. And the Democrats are really getting a little annoyed about this. I mean, you saw, what happened last week when she had some big event in Michigan, and he came out at the same time to do a White House presser. Now, he never does White House presser. Never. Suddenly, he came out to do a White House presser.
Wait, what do you call that, everybody? I call that a big middle finger. That's what it is.
I think so. And then she got into this very stupid fight with Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis won't take my phone call. Why should he take her phone call? He's you have
no power. Who are you?
Exactly. She's a vice president. She has no executive powers.
You live in the Naval Observatory, and you run officially. You run NASA. What else?
so
I mean,
so he's busy. Yeah,
could
you know,
can she write a check?
yeah.
Can she
So
write a check? No, she
and
can't
what?
write a check.
No,
She
she
can't
can't
write
write
a
a check.
check.
She can't. No, and she has no one under her command. I mean, that's the point. You know, it's not like you can, free up some resources or tell somebody to do something. All she was looking for was the photo op. On the phone talking to the governor of Florida. Oh, you can count on me. I'm going to do everything you need and whatever. Um, and he knew that all she was looking for was a photo op to use in her campaign. So why should he play along with it? Then she got angry with this and she just lashed out at him, which was a very bad move because the guy is busy.
He's kind of busy.
He's busy at the moment, and she's lashing out at him because he's not taking her phone calls. And then Biden chimed in. Oh, well, I have a very good working relationship with Governor DeSantis. We talked on the phone today, and everything that he wanted. We're ready to. The federal government will be ready to help him. Again, he stepped on her message by speaking warmly about DeSantis. So the Democrats look at this and say, "Hey, you're not being a team player. We don't like this. You're undercutting our candidate." And of course, yes.
Well, I mean, but George, I mean, Joe Biden has shown who he really is. Okay,
Right.
This entire presidency about Scranton Joe and all, it's all rubbish. It's all a lie. It's not even really well constructed facade. Okay, it's all Biden is a slob. He's cruel. He's limited intelligence. I mean, you got to admire him for how far he made it, but that seems to happen in the West a lot now these days.
Yep, it does.
But, yeah, why should he be a team player? Okay,
Right.
He stabbed his way up the steps of power. Now people are doing it to him. So grow up, you stupid old man. Okay,
Right.
and another thing. I mean, I usually don't Saturday Night Live. Yes, everyone, when I was a much younger man, I watched Saturday Night Live like in the 80s. Okay. In this century, nope. Okay. But it was sent over to me this morning and I saw the skit they made with Harris. It actually was pretty funny. Okay. The problem, I stopped watching Saturday Night Live because it wasn't funny anymore.
No,
okay?
it just wasn't funny. No.
Liberal propaganda. But
Exactly.
this one was. Oh, okay. They took their swipes at Trump, which actually were quite funny because they were quite accurate. And what was really interesting about it is even Trump supporters would say, "Yeah, that's the way he is." See, it was a really interesting skit because Trump didn't lose anything because that's what he's like. That's our guy. We like him. That's the way he is. Okay, but with Harris, no, they took her down a lot of notches. Okay, which I thought was very, very smart, and I was very surprised.
Yeah. But I think that's why if the Democrats are going to look around and say, well, what can we now do?
Only one thing, George.
Exactly.
One thing they can do.
And so if there is war in the Middle East, then I think they go to Biden and say, sorry, we're invoking the 25th Amendment. We said we'd do this. We expected you to play ball with us. We said you can stay president until January the 20th, but you've got to play ball with us. You've got to support our candidate, and you're not doing it. So I think it's time for you to go. And I don't think there'll be very much that he can do about it because if they invoke the 25th Amendment, that's it. They invoke the 25th Amendment.
What's he going to do, George?
Approval.
I don't know who it's going to be, Nancy. Okay, but they're going to come in with a letter.
Yeah.
Dear Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, effective noon tomorrow, I resign the presidency of the United States. Why do I say that? Because that's what Richard Nixon wrote. Okay. I think it was one sentence. One sentence. Okay.
That's right.
And they're going to say, sign it. Okay.
That's
and we're holding Jill hostage in the kitchen.
Yes, I think didn't you say the other day you said it's like the black spot? Didn't you use the metaphor of the black spot about the black spot? I mean, if you've read Treasure Island.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But remember how whenever they decided they were going to kill someone, they passed him the black spot, I thought it was you who said you used the metaphor of the black spot, and that's always very bad because the black spot, when you get the black spot, means you're next on the chopping block. So I think that they passed him the black spot.
This
What
is
is?
my Mont Blanc Treasure Island fan.
Yeah, and so
Very. You
yeah,
can't. You can on the top there. They have the skull for the black spot.
that's right. Um, and it's a great short story. I mean, but remember when Long John Silver, who was a kind of a scary character himself, but at one stage he gets the black spot, and he's very nervous when he's past the black spot. So I thought that, like, yeah, they're going to pass him the black spot. You're gone.
Well, I mean, it just reiterate here. There's only one thing they can do. There's only one card left to play in this very miserably choreographed hand, and that is it. That is
Right.
it, and it is imminent. Look, why do you think that CNN, all this cover, 100 troops going to Israel? Blah, blah, this is all part of it.
Yeah.
It's all part of it.
I agree. I
The
agree.
drumbeat to war. Drumbeat to war.
I agree.
And even in mainstream media, you can say who's running the country. It's not taboo to ask it.
No, I think it's a reasonable for them to think. Look, the Democrats they can't afford to lose the presidency. This is a very big deal for them particularly to lose the presidency to Trump.
For Donald Trump,
everything that they've thrown at him for the last 4 years, and now to lose it. I mean, this would be such a humiliation that they can't live with that. So they have to then apply this.
we can live with it.
Yeah. And of course, if it's immediate, effective immediately, he doesn't get to do the pardons. Now they might decide, hey, all right, 2 days before the January the 20th, all right, you can do your list of pardons.
George, that's already been done. I'm sure that has already been done. Okay, I'm absolutely convinced of it. And the only thing that I'm not sure of is that did he pardon himself? Okay, that's the only thing in that category that I think is an unknown. But no, when he stepped down, that was his first order of it. What else has he been doing? Eating ice cream? Come on, that's what he's been doing. And it's going to be a pretty vast list, I think.
Yeah. Yes. But the thing is that the New York Times has written something very, very interesting and ominous, and they've been focusing. There's something very ominous for Harris, which is that she's doing poorly among blacks and among Hispanics, and they know they look at the numbers and say you can't win if you're doing this poorly among blacks and Hispanics. And so this is an article from let's see, this is from and this is the Nate Cohn, who is their expert on polls, and he does all their polling stuff. And that's not it, typically.
Oh, I can't see how many slides there are. No, you're pulling a trick on me.
Can you see this now?
I can see it. Yeah.
Okay. So here the we have the numbers for black voters, and you can see that Harris has 78%, Trump has 15%. The problem there, which thinks, okay, well that's pretty good, is that Democrats are used to getting around 90% among black voters. More seriously, if you look at black men, it's only 70% support Harris. 20% of black men support Trump. That's a substantial the gain by Trump. And what's striking about that is this long campaign, almost 10 years, that Trump is an incorrigible racist, is a fascist, he's a white supremacist, and so on. And after all that, he's doing better among blacks than any previous Republican, really going back really to the days of Richard Nixon.
Nixon, yep.
Yeah. And so here we have, says, oh, the vice president's support from black women is strong. it says about 83%. The problem with that is that Biden got 93% in 2020. So that even among black women, it's gone down from 93% to 83%. And it says 12% of black women said they would back Mr. Trump. Again, that's a considerable amount. Usually, it's only about 4 or 5% of black women say they're going to back the Republican. And then he says, but the slip from Mr. Biden's 2020 numbers among black men is striking. 70% said they would vote for Harris, down from Biden's 85% in 2020.
That's huge.
That is huge. And then it says, well, Harris struggles to win over Latinos while Trump holds his grip. And then again,
only Trump holds grips, right? You know, they would never say Harris has a grip.
No, that's right. That's right. And then it says that survey found Miss Harris underperforming the last 3 Democratic candidates for the White House. And then he goes on, and then if you look at these numbers, it's been a steady decline. So basically among Hispanics, it's 56 to 37, where it had been, the Democratic margin in 2016 was 39%. It's now down to 19%. So it's halved. The margin has halved since 2016.
What you're saying, George, is turnout is going to be the defining.
That's right. That's right. And now here we have again Hispanic voters, but again it is striking how the gender gap, among men and women. So if you look at 48%, it's 48-45 among Hispanic men, Harris and Trump, which means it's an even split between.
Well, you and I have been over this territory before, but Ronald Reagan was right. He said Hispanics are conservative. They just don't know it yet. Okay, yes. and it's happening. It's happening. Okay.
That's right.
And particularly, Hispanic. I mean, there's so many Latino. I don't want to offend anyone. Okay, what I mean is that they're a very successful segment of society. Right. Okay, right. Very entrepreneurial, very conservative, religious. Okay. And Trump gives them permission. He's giving them permission. Okay.
No,
get away from this collective and the plantation politics.
Right. Yeah. No, that's right. And again, they don't have an objection. We're going to look at some of these poll numbers, but they don't have a problem with building a wall. The notion that somehow they want uncontrolled immigration.
Of course.
Not uncontrolled immigration.
Illegal immigration gives them a bad name. Come on, everybody knows that, except for the Democratic Party and mainstream media.
That's right. And so this is the Nate Cohn article. Why is Trump gaining with black and Hispanic voters? And then he says, he presents some. It says here, the 8 years later, so he's talking about the polls suggest that he might well return to the White House by faring better among black and Hispanic voters combined than any Republican presidential nominee since the enactment of the Civil Rights Act in 1964. So this is Nate Cohn, the New York Times' pollster, who was saying this. He could return to the White House with faring better among black and Hispanic voters than any Republican presidential nominee since 1964, which is quite remarkable. And almost anywhere we can measure it, Mr. Trump is running well or better among black and Hispanic voters as any Republican in recent memory. In 2020, Joe Biden's black support was 92%. His Hispanic support was 63%. And now, it's gone down. And then now he presents these explanations, these head scratching, I wonder why this is. One, they don't mind the dog whistles. To liberals, Mr. Trump's views on race, crime, and immigration are little more than racist dog whistles. Many black and Hispanic voters feel similarly, but a surprising number hear those dog whistles and like what they're hearing.
Oh, it's so Liberals are so condescending. Oh
It's
my
always
God.
condescending. It's always exactly. Hey, you're supposed to think the way we tell you
Yeah,
to
yeah,
think.
yeah. Again, just looking down at you and telling
Yeah,
you how you should think. That's why I call it plantation politics. Okay,
that's right. Yeah. So
I
he
mean,
said,
again, the predicate, a dog whistle. I mean, okay,
yeah,
that's their construct.
right,
Okay, and then
right.
they say, oh, and blacks and Hispanics, they don't mind dog whistle. I don't believe the whole presentation of that idea. I think it's fake. I think it's
It,
dishonest.
yes, but you're absolutely right, because the whole point of a dog whistle, as I understand it, dog whistle means it's a whistle that or humans don't hear, but dogs hear it. So in other words, it's these journalists, liberals, they hear something,
They hear
even
it. Yeah.
though you might not hear it. You read it and say, "Oh yeah, well, that sounds reasonable." Oh no, but I hear the dog whistle. I hear something that you don't hear because I've got such good ears. There's really a racist dog whistle. It's not immediately obvious, but if you listen carefully, it's a racist dog
Yeah,
whistle.
because minorities are just too dumb to hear the whistle.
That's
That's
it.
what they're saying. Okay,
Yeah,
it's so
yeah,
condescending. It's so racist as well.
that's right. So it says around 40% of black voters and 43% of Hispanic voters say they support building a wall along the southern border. That's so imagine all this time the Democratic Party establishment has attacked the wall. What was it? Nancy Pelosi said a wall is an immorality, a completely ridiculous thing. But it says 40% of black voters, 43% of Hispanic voters say they support building a wall. Similarly, 45% of Hispanic voters and 41% of black voters say they support deporting undocumented immigrants. 45% of Hispanic voters say they support deporting undocumented immigrants. That's almost half. Um, and then half of Hispanic voters and nearly half, 47% of black voters, say that crime in big cities is a major problem that's gotten out of control. That's essentially the same as the share of white voters who say the same.
Yeah, but
Again,
George,
mhm,
this explains late in the game why the Harris team is trying to capture Trump's immigration policies.
yes,
She's doing it on almost across the board.
right. No, but the point is that, as you said, it's late in the game. It should have been obvious right from the start that this is going to be a problem. And they were too busy placating the Democratic Party activists. That the liberal crowd, the MSNBC, CNN crowd, and now suddenly realize, hey, we've got an election to win. We can't rely on CNN journalists to win it for us. But here it should have been obvious that this is what's going to happen. And then the support for Mr. Trump's views extends beyond issues related to race and immigration. A majority of black and Hispanic voters seem to sympathize with his America First foreign policy, saying that America ought to pay less attention to problems overseas and concentrate on problems at home. And in previous times, Siena surveys have found that a substantial share of black and Hispanic voters agree with Mr. Trump on trade as well. Or put differently, there's a lot about Mr. Trump's core populist conservative message that resonates with a sizable chunk of black and Hispanic voters. But again, there's nothing so surprising about that, because I remember back in the Reagan era when they did these surveys and they said blacks had no interest at all in these crusade for democracy and sorting out this this crisis and that crisis. They said no, you've got to focus on problems at home. So this shouldn't have come as a surprise that that a message of America First, we need to focus on domestic issues, would find resonance among black voters. It's always been the case. They've never been interested on all sorts of nonsensical international crusades.
Absolutely, and you see the punditry in the mainstream talk about America as the indispensable country in the world. Are always flacking
Right.
for more wars, but I think a lot of particularly since we're talking about minorities, black and Hispanics, all they have to do is go outside their domicile and say, there's something wrong in this country. Okay.
Yep.
I mean, it's not hard. It's not hard to figure out, George.
That's right. Exactly. Absolutely. Not hard at all. And then the second possible explanation, they're not offended. They might even be entertained. Of course, Mr. Trump hasn't just used dog whistles in his campaigns. Sometimes he's used a bullhorn. During his time in national politics, he has offended millions of Black and Hispanic voters, including by recently saying that Haitian refugees eat cats and dogs, and that undocumented immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country. But as he's already...
How do we know that, George? How do you know that? But maybe Blacks and Hispanics think it's funny that Haitians eat cats and dogs. Okay.
Right.
I mean, again, this Cohn guy is saying, well, Blacks, Hispanics, Haitians, they're all the same to me.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And they all react exactly the, it's just, again, just at its core, it's very racist. How do you know what they think about these things?
You're exactly right. Because why would they think, oh, this is fantastic? You know, Haitian refugees, well, they're Black, we're Black, so we're the same, we're the same basic people. No, they don't. I mean, they absolutely don't immediately identify with Haitian refugees or with undocumented immigrants. Oh yeah, I'm Black, you're Black, you're undocumented. Therefore,
George,
you and I are on the same page.
In Hungary, you obviously have an affinity for Ukrainians, right? Because you're white.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, we absolutely love Ukrainians. Yeah, that's right. So it says, and it goes on, but a sizable minority of Black and Hispanic voters aren't necessarily so offended. Overall, 20% of Black voters say that those offended by Mr. Trump take him too seriously, while 78% agree people have good reason to be offended. So 20% say, yeah, I mean, you know, this is the way Trump talks. I mean, in other words, it's obvious not just to us, but to others that, yeah, Trump has a particular personal style, is how he expresses himself, and that, you know, one can't take these things too seriously. Just like when he said, you know, if you don't pay up your dues to NATO, we're going to ask Russia to invade you. I mean, nobody thought that this is, I mean, New York Times take it seriously, but of course, Trump is just, that's the way he speaks. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to ask Russia to invade you if you don't cough up the money for NATO.
Well, George, I mean, we've talked so many times about, you know, how present Trump is when he says these kind of things. But maybe that's missing the point. Where, you know, I will ask the Russians to invade you. But his point is, I have to say something like this to get your attention.
That's right.
See what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because but you're actually thinking about what I really want. Now I have to say these things to get you to wake up and say, this is a serious issue here. These people are free riding billions of dollars off American taxpayers every single year. So what do I have to say to get your attention?
You're absolutely right. That's a very good point. He gets people's attention. And that was always the case with him. Same with the Muslim ban. He suddenly got everyone's attention. Hey, we've got a problem here. You know, we need to address it. So he doesn't really mean it literally, but he does it, you know, so to get people to notice. And then similarly, 40% of Hispanic voters say people offended by Mr. Trump take his words too seriously, while 55% say there's good reason to be offended. Importantly, only about 1/3 of Hispanic voters say Mr. Trump is talking about them when he's talking about problems with immigration. So they don't, you know, exactly, they don't immediately, oh yeah, well, I'm Hispanic, and he's talking about Hispanics, therefore I feel personally offended. They say, no, I don't think, you know, he's talking about illegal immigration. That's like, he's not, you know, he's not talking about all Hispanics. He's talking about those who are here illegally.
Look, we're talking about politics here.
Right.
You know, we're not at etiquette school. Okay. I mean, offended? I think people are offended seeing their lifestyle crumble in front of them. I think people are offended they can't buy eggs. I think they're offended they can't take their family to Disneyland. So you're offended? I mean, only liberals are offended with this kind of garbage.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So then goes on. All right, let's just let's get in this survey, we asked voters whether they thought Ms. Harris or Mr. Trump was more fun, which is a strange question, a question that could potentially capture everything from Ms. Harris's claim to joy and to Mr. Trump's locker room talk. Overall, voters said Ms. Harris was more fun than Mr. Trump. She even led on fun among white voters, even though Mr. Trump led among white voters in the poll. Then it says, but among Black and Hispanic voters, the story was a bit more complicated. They do rate Ms. Harris as more fun, but by a much narrower margin than her lead over Mr. Trump in the presidential race. Mr. Trump's relative strength on fun comes almost entirely from men. He led on the measure among Hispanic men. Age is a factor too. Younger voters are far likelier to find Mr. Trump fun with respect to Mr. Harris, Ms. Harris, than voters over 65. And I think this is something that we talked about the other day, which is I think they kind of like Trump's style, Trump's swagger, which I think is they just find it appealing. You know, there's a certain manliness that.
Well, I mean, particularly, I read on Zero Hedge a review of the Joker 2 film. Okay, everyone, I didn't see the Joker 1, so but I was waiting for my lunch, so I thought I would read it. And it goes through, you know, this attack on masculinity, and men are reacting to it. Okay, they don't see themselves as the problem. They see themselves as being victimized by this ridiculous toxic masculinity theorem. And so people, they look at Trump, and Trump is uninhibited. He's just a guy. He says stuff that's like really crazy sometimes. And a lot of times you're laughing, trying to figure out what he's talking about, you know, and they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. No, I think you can have an affinity. I think when Trump is uninhibited, he's free. And that's what people are, you know, that's kind of cool, because Harris can't speak correctly. Joe Biden can't speak correctly. And then if you watch CNN and MSNBC, they all say exactly the same thing. And I'm not saying that, you know, kind of the same, exactly the same from one podcast to another, all controlled, confined, focus group studied and everything. And then Trump comes up, they're eating the cats and the dogs. I mean, you know, politicians, you know, the liberals, they want to be taken so seriously. Okay. They're the most unserious people you can ever come across. Okay. And I think the fun thing that leads into trust. I mean, I don't trust these people that make, you know, it's a dog whistle. Well, I don't hear it. I mean, you must be a dog then. It's not if you're a racist, you must be a dog, because I can't hear it.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. No, they're right. And I think that's always been, Trump's strongest selling point is the authenticity. So again, you know, when you have authenticity, you have good things and you have bad things. And, you know, sometimes he just... he's very rude and kind of obnoxious, but you also have essentially kind of honesty. I mean, he's not pretending to be anything that he's not. Harris is, as with Hillary Clinton, as with Biden, they're very inauthentic. They're always pretending to be something that they're not. You know, the whole I grew up as a middle class kid. I mean, it's phony. Your parents were two university professors. I mean, with a middle class kid. I grew up with truckers around me. And then Biden, the whole Scranton Joe, he's, I'm sort of a working guy. No, you've been in the Senate since you were 29 years old. I mean, you basically had the wonderful privileged existence of being a U.S. senator since you were 29. And of course, Hillary Clinton, we need to say, with all her pretense and her putting on all these funny voices and funny accents. Trump never does that. He's never talks any way other than the way he's always talked. He's always like that ever since he was a young man.
If he's going to court Hispanic voters, if he's going to court Black voters, George, he always wears the same
Say,
uniform. He's always, he doesn't come in, I mean, it's like he goes to Hawaii, so he's going to wear a, what do you call those things you put around,
oh, those, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, he's
No,
like, Hillary Clinton walked around with hot sauce in her bag.
that's it. The hot. I was trying to recall what he was. The hot sauce. Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you've always
in 2016, the 616 election, when he was in that black congregation in Chicago, and they were singing a spiritual, and he's the only white guy in this huge crowd, and he's doing his damnedest to get along with it. And it was like, you don't know how to do it, but I admire your effort here. Okay. And I think they all looked at him and thought it was kind of endearing. Okay.
Yes, that's right. That's right. But he doesn't put on the funny accent, the sort of, trying to put on the Southern drawl, which Hillary Clinton did. And that is really obnoxious when you try to talk in a way that isn't natural. And he never does that. He talks like a guy from Queens. In every context, he's always like a guy from Queens. And that's I think people find that appealing about him and always have. And now it says, put all this together, Mr. Trump isn't quite as unpopular as you might guess among Black and Hispanic voters. Overall, 70% of Black voters and 41% of Hispanic voters say they have a favorable view of him. And then the third point here, this is still Nate Cohn. It's obvious, yet it still doesn't get enough attention. It's the economy, stupid. Just 20% of Hispanic voters and 26% of Black voters say the current economic conditions are good or excellent. So that's not great. More than half of both groups say they have often cut back on groceries over the last year because of the cost. And as a celebrity billionaire businessman, Mr. Trump has always had an advantage on this issue. Now Mr. Trump is running again at a time when voters are more dissatisfied with the economy than before, and when many look back on Mr. Trump's presidency as a prosperous and peaceful time. Ms. Harris has a mere 69-25 lead among Black voters who rate the economy as the most important factor for their vote. That's not at all good. 69-25 among Black voters who rate the economy as the most important factor for their vote. Mr. Trump leads 61-35 among Hispanic voters who say the economy matters most, which is that is a remarkable number.
Yeah, but George, as these are readily apparent to anyone that is awake, is that, did you see the commercial that the Biden people with the guy saying, I support women? Did you see that?
Oh, yeah, that's cringe-inducing.
That is so cringe. I mean, again, you're spitting in the face of the electorate. They care about the economy. That's not exactly hard to figure out.
That's right. Yeah. It's so oozing kind of a smarminess and unctuousness and fraudulence. How anyone
I can't imagine that one person would change their. I can't imagine that commercial would influence anyone voting.
That's right. Yeah, you think was it something? You think I don't know how to change a carburetor. I eat carburetors for breakfast. It's just so awful. I mean, the idea that there's any man alive who talks like this, I eat carburetors for breakfast, and you think, that means I'm really masculine. It's awful. No one is going to be persuaded. I think people are going to be absolutely disgusted. They must have paid an awful lot of money for that ad. It was slickly done. Professional advertising agency. That's absolute money down the drain. They raised $1 billion, whatever she's raised, and then they just takes it away on this sort of rubbish.
Yeah, but the message is, again, where's the learning curve here? Right. So all men are the same? Right. Really? I thought we disabused ourselves that external traits is deterministic. I thought we moved away from that like 50 years ago.
Yeah, but of course we haven't, and we talked about this with Obama the other day, which is, here was Obama, who was this post-racial president who became president because white voters voted for him, and now he's suddenly declaring, no, you're supposed to vote according to your skin color. And I said, whoa, but didn't you get to be president precisely because people didn't vote according to their skin color. Oh, well, that was different. So, again, I mean, that's just a completely nonsensical. Why should blacks vote? Simply because somebody is black. I mean, or and whites should vote for somebody because they're white. I mean, that. So Obama completely undercut his own message. And in a way, Obama always was a fraud.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, so then the end of hope and change. Even beyond the poor state of the economy, there's something deeper holding the Democrats back, a sense that voting for them just won't make much of a difference. Of all questions in the survey, perhaps the single worst one for Democrats was on the question of which party best keeps its promises. Just 63% of black voters and 46% of Hispanic voters said keeps its promises describes the Democratic Party better than the Republicans. So that's not good. And then the fifth reason, the poll suggests that Mr. Trump has made his largest gains among young black and Hispanic voters, especially young black and Hispanic men. Overall, he has a 55-38 lead among Hispanic men 45 or younger. That's a big lead.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Hispanic men 45 or younger. Ms. Harris leads among black men under 45, but only 69-27. That's terrible. 27% of black men under 45 support Trump. That's an extraordinary number. The results among 18 to 29-year-olds, Hispanic and black men, are even more striking, though the samples are small. So anyway, I wanted to show this. This was Nate Cohn. This is the New York Times, and they're basically coming to the conclusion this is very bad for Harris. You got to, when you're going into an election, you got to have your base locked up. I mean, if your base isn't locked in, you're going to have real difficulties on election night.
Well, and Trump does have his
base.
And Trump does have his base locked
up. Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's
so these are unforced errors on the part of the Democrats. Okay. And they're irreversible, I think, at this stage here. Again, elections have in a way it's kind of very organic. There starts to be a movement, and George and I think so we take all this seriously after Labor Day, right? Because all the rest of it's just fluff, okay? But it's after Labor Day, and we're coming down
3 weeks away. Yeah, 3 weeks. 3 weeks. So just we've only got a few more of these live streams between now and.
Well, I mean, George, the Gaggle's selling point on this election is don't obsess about election day or election week. It's America now, after all, but it's what's going to happen after the election.
Very much so. Very
that's where the rubber's going to hit the road, everyone.
Yeah.
And it isn't. I think it's going to be ugly.
I think it's going to be very ugly. In all sorts of ways, because I think there's going to be a lot of cheating going on. So again, as in 2020, we will have almost certainly Trump up on election night. But then the question is, well, what happens after election night, in the days afterwards? And that's really going to get.
Well, see, what's in play here, and it's now a part of the genetic code of the Democrats, is that if they lose, it's the voters' fault. Failed. You failed us, okay, and we're going to get a lot of that, okay.
That's right, and that's why it's very interesting, because you brought my attention today to the attack on Jill Stein, which is very interesting because Jill Stein is running
unprecedented. Keep going. Sorry.
Right, no, but because Jill Stein is running as a Green Party candidate, and now of course the Democrats are enraged because of their belief that somehow she's going to steal votes that rightfully belong to them. Now, of course, no votes rightfully belong to anyone. I mean, they're not your possession, but the Democrats always think that. And again, we're reminded of 2000 and 2004, when the Democrats vented their rage, real, uncontrolled rage against Ralph Nader. And again, remember, Ralph Nader used to be a hero, a liberal hero for years and years. I mean, you grew up with Ralph Nader. I mean, he was just worshipped. When he first started in the 1960s, he was a hero of consumers and liberal
He was such
activists.
a liberal hero that where I grew up, my parents, they hated they hated him. He was the devil. He was worse than communism.
Yeah, exactly, worse than communism, because he made capitalists shake in their boots.
That's right.
And then suddenly he just became this object of hatred, because the Democrats got it into their heads that somehow they lost the 2000 election because of Nader. But the problem, it goes back to the same thing, which is that votes don't belong to you. This notion that people who voted for Nader would have voted for Al Gore had Nader not been on the ballot, it assumes that people are really stupid. Somehow, I've got Nader to choose from, and so I'm going to vote for Nader. Otherwise, I would just simply vote for Gore. No, people just wouldn't have shown up. They just all would have written in some other candidate. If people don't want to vote for you, they're not going to vote for you. It doesn't depend on whether there's somebody else's name is on the ballot. They're just not going to vote for you. And that was the point. That was that whole argument was so ridiculous in 2000. The Nader voters would not have voted for Al Gore if Nader's name was not on the ballot. They just wouldn't have done it, because all the various issues that they cared about, and that was it was very much to do with war and peace. Al Gore was terrible. Al Gore was a neocon. They would not have voted for him. But the rage that was directed at Nader, his reputation never recovered. And then in 2004, he did it again. But by then, he was already, already out as far as liberals were concerned. So now the same thing is being done to Jill Stein. Somehow she is stealing the Democrats' vote in Michigan. Otherwise, they would have voted for. They want to vote for Kamala. They really want to vote, but Jill Stein is forcing them to vote for her.
Well, it shows you the level of desperation. The Democratic Party, as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, has never made a major nationwide ad against the third party. It's never happened before. It's happening now. That means they're shaking in their boots.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to remember, everyone, it's the Electoral College, and the Electoral College, when you break it down, it's congressional districts. Okay. Right. And this is what it's all about. Okay. It's, who's nationwide poll, Harris is up 3. It's meaningless.
Meaningless, yeah.
It's meaningless. They don't fall for it. Okay. Right. And then what George and I do, we have a handicap. We look at polls. We give Republicans 3 to 5% more every single poll. And we have good reason to, okay? Since 2016, the polls have been off, all right? Yep. So if you're looking at a congressional district in Pennsylvania, that's what I care about. That's what I care about. Right. Certain congressional districts are going to flip the state one way or another. Right. The rest of it is fluff.
Right. Yep.
And Jill Stein is doing some very well in certain congressional districts and battleground states. Okay. And so many people, my observation is here, in many ways, it is a protest vote. They don't have there's no candidate for them out there. They don't like Trump. They don't like Harris. It doesn't mean that they have any kind of love or affection for Jill Stein. They're just saying, I don't like what you've presented us on the menu. Okay. And a lot of people, enough people, I should say, may just default and say, this is my message to this duopoly, that two of the most cringe-worthy candidates you could. I mean, it's a country of what, 330 million people, and you pick these two?
Right. Okay. Right. No, I think that's right. But I think that the Greens, with Harris, they obviously she knows that she only has a very narrow path to victory. She has to win those Midwestern states at a minimum, every single one of them, which is Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. At a minimum, she has to carry those. And particularly, Michigan is going to be very difficult for her. There's a very substantial Arab American population. They're a very substantial Muslim population, and they are very unhappy about the Biden administration's policy on the Middle East. Now, those people who are going to, because they feel so strongly about this in the Middle East, and they're going to vote for Jill Stein, they would not have voted for Harris. Even if they go out and they vote for Stein, they wouldn't vote for Harris. If she wasn't on the ballot, they would say, "Whoa, they want Harris." Why would they do that? I mean, they just there's no reason for them to do so, because it's the Biden administration has been pursuing a policy that has enraged them. I mean, they can certainly think, "Oh, well, she's better than Trump," but that's pure speculation. That's sort of like, well, maybe she is, maybe she's better than Trump or not better than Trump. We don't know. But what they will know is that Harris is part of an administration that has given Israel a blank check. They're never going to vote for Harris. So that's why this whole argument is so absolutely stupid, and why, of course, she is in a lot of trouble in Michigan. I think Stein could well make an impact in
I think she will.
Yeah,
I think she will.
But again, the point is that these votes don't belong to you. I mean, the whole idea, hey, you're stealing my votes. That like you're, as if somehow this is your dinner and somebody's stealing your dinner from you. No, they're not yours. They're nobody's votes. You have to earn people's votes. They're not just an entitlement and somebody's, oh, give me my votes back. No, you have to earn it. But that's why this attack, I think, is completely misconceived.
Yeah, well, it just shows the state of play right now. I mean, they wouldn't have deployed an ad like that if they weren't in trouble, and they're in very big trouble. They haven't been able. The way I look at it, and again, I have to say there's quite a bit of distance for me, but Harris isn't crystallized into anything. Okay. There is much talk about that fake CNN or the double take of that interview with her. What's really pathetic is that the substituted answer wasn't much better than the first one. Okay, so they just have very limited material to work with here,
right.
And you can't help but notice it.
Right. No, I think that's right. I think that's it's the particular problem with Harris is that it's always fake. It's always phony when she suddenly brings up these oh, well, I'm of course more sympathetic to the Palestinians than Joe Biden is, and then you get these people writing, oh, Harris has expressed greater sympathy for the Palestinians than Biden has. It's fake. It's obviously a fraud, and so nobody is buying it. It's obviously kind of something you say before an election. You make some routine, meaningless. Oh, we have to, the Palestinians are suffering. We have to do something for them. But you leave it completely blank, other than the usual two-state solution. Whatever the hell that you mean by that. Often you mean nothing. So no one's buying that sort of thing. Anyway, if you look at the locals board. So we have DJ who says they aren't talking about what happened to the THAAD system that was already there, which is the THAAD. The THAAD system was put in place before now. It says in March 2019, DJ says, Bravo Battery, 2nd Air Defense Artillery Regiment, 11th Air Defense Artillery Brigade was deployed at Nevatim Air Base, the one that was attacked recently, during a joint U.S.-Israel drill, after which it was moved to an undisclosed location in the Negev Desert in southern Israel. That's really, there's no question. There's been intense cooperation on air defense between Israel and the United States. I mean, the United States had built Israel's Iron Dome, so that that all that is absolutely right. So thank you, DJ. Dan Rock, thank you so much. Always thank you for your generosity. Really appreciate it. And then Leafy Bug says, people say Trump doesn't age, but you look at close-ups of him recently and he looks old, considerably older than he looked even in 2020. Even his orange hair looks gray. You may be right. I haven't noticed it, but except what you said about his hair. His hair does look um, gray. Now, I always assume that he colored his hair, but so I'm a
Yeah.
little
Well,
surprised that
also,
see
if you,
yeah.
at least, from his campaign, I've noticed that there's always pictures of him from afar on a stage. There are very few close-ups you see.
Right,
Very,
right.
and when you do, I agree. He's aged. He's
Yeah.
definitely aged. Though it's really quite relative. I mean, he's. I mean, I hope I'm in good shape when I'm his age. Okay, we all do. So, but yeah,
Right.
I agree. But I mean, as we started out here, I mean, I don't know what was going on with Barack Obama, but he looked really bad.
Right. Right.
Guy that has the most comfortable life you could imagine.
Yeah, that's right. But this is what's interesting about Trump, which is that he does show extraordinary energy because he does these rallies. He does two rallies a day, and those are, yeah, he's gone through the routine before. Nonetheless, it's still a lot of work. I mean, he's on his feet for an hour and a half.
But I think he likes it.
Oh,
That's a
I'm sure he
difference.
does.
I
But
think that's a difference. He enjoys it.
I'm sure he enjoys it, but it still takes a toll on his body. I mean, he's almost 80. It has to take a toll on his body to do this. Even if no question he enjoys it, I'm sure it's not doing his blood pressure any good, and I'm sure that it's taking its toll on his body. I mean, to be on your feet for an hour and a half, that's a lot of stress that your body's taking for somebody of his age. And so that's expending a great deal of energy there. So look, somebody who's close to 80. That's pretty impressive. And I have to say, even if he's showing his age, it's pretty impressive to have that much energy. But the why his hair looks gray. I mean, that surprises me because he's just simply neglected coloring it. So, and then Leafybug says they're running out of time for the 25th Amendment. Maybe it's already too late. If they do it now, it will just look opportunistic and absurd, like when McCain suspended his campaign to fix the GFC.
Yeah, but they don't have any other. They have to be. They're in a position of being absurd, and they have to be opportunistic. I agree with the sentiment of the question, the statement, but I think that's we're here. We're at that point.
Yeah, I think so too, because
George said here, and he's absolutely right. They cannot contemplate losing to Donald Trump. I mean, they will have a collective mental breakdown.
Right. Yeah, because this is going to be even more painful than 2016, because they can, at least in 2016, they had the excuse of we underestimated him. He caught us by surprise. We didn't prepare. Also, we had a lousy candidate in Hillary Clinton, and of course Putin. Putin swooped in and stole the election from us. This time they say, hey, we've had 4 years in which we've thrown everything at him, but the kitchen sink, with all the 4 separate criminal prosecutions. We've tried to bankrupt him in New York. We've had the assassination attempts, and even after all that, he's still he's going to beat us. This is going to hurt. This is
going to hurt. They're eating the cats and the dogs. They lost it. Lose to that.
That's right. And they threw everything. They threw Obama into and that's why. Yeah, that's why Obama is taking it as personally. You've done this, and he still wins. And that's why I think they're going to do everything that's within their powers to prevent this from happening. I mean, they can't live with that. That's just too humiliating. Now, when you say it looks opportunistic, yes, it does. I'm not saying it will work. I mean, it might
It's
not work.
politics,
Yeah,
everybody.
but
Of course.
exactly, yeah.
It's fair. Being an opportunist in politics? Come
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
That's
No,
part of the game.
yeah. So, I mean, when you say there was no time, yes, it's only about 3 weeks, but it's going to be quite quick. I mean, if you say we're invoking the 25th Amendment, I think it can be done in one afternoon. They just said,
Absolutely.
sorry, Biden had just simply collapsed. He's just a drooling idiot. We have to install someone else in.
These people are the ultimate opportunists. Don't you think they've already done the paperwork?
Yeah.
Of course they have.
Yeah.
It's in somebody's desk.
Yeah.
The letter is already prepared. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, no, impeachment. It takes time. There are procedures. You can speed it up a bit, and they did with Trump, but it takes time. 25th Amendment.
Right.
You got you can do that at brunch, really.
Right. Yes, I think so. I think it, and
there's no 25th Amendment form.
Yeah, very, very quick. And I think the fact that Biden isn't playing ball and he's not, getting with the program, this I think this will, I think, seal his fate. What he did last week, he'll say, no, that's it. You're not with the program. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. You're undercutting her. You're obviously allowing your personal feelings to get in the way, your personal resentments, and the feeling that you have been humiliated. Well, that's it. You're gone. I
mean, also, George, if we're in this territory, which I think we are, they will make sure that Joe Biden will be completely erased, humiliated, forgotten. And I mean, Jill, no library for you. Okay?
No. Yeah, you're right. Yes.
No donors are going to step up for you. Okay.
Yeah.
You're going to be lucky if you can get a broom closet in Obama's monstrosity mausoleum library. Right. No,
yeah, I think so.
They this is the way they are. These are Bolsheviks. Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Play ball. We will annihilate you in every way possible. Maybe your son will go to prison, Joe.
Yeah, I think so. And there have been stories in the past about the no love lost between the Obamas and the Bidens, and particularly Michelle Obama, who apparently was quite friendly with Hunter Biden's wife, and she obviously is quite upset with the way Hunter treated his former wife. And so when Obama is going to step in, and Obama is going to be, the key figure in pushing Biden out the door, and you're right, they're going to be absolutely ruthless about it. Jill, she's going to have to move out of the bedroom like quickly. Hey, sorry, we're going to use this bedroom. Sorry, can I at least keep my sheets? No, you can't keep your sheets. You just have to leave by the side door sometime this afternoon. They're going to be absolutely determined to humiliate the Bidens as much as possible. Anyway, Leafy Bug says nobody believed McCain would be able to do that, and I don't think anyone who hasn't already made up their mind will believe President Kamala is up to fixing the Middle East. No, I don't think anyone does. They don't have too many options. I think that's really the problem. The numbers are just not looking good. The whole Harris surge, that everyone knows, hey, that's gone. We had that in July. We don't have it anymore. So they're out of options.
I don't even think that was real. I think that was just
I agree with you. Absolutely.
A figment of the media's imagination. I really believe that.
Yeah, I agree as well. Is up to fixing regardless of meaty gloss. This is at minimum gloss right now and still can't hide her superficiality. Or everything you say about Kamala is true. But as I say, they're desperately looking around for a solution. So again, I'm not saying this is going to be this is a plan that will work.
But isn't it interesting here? So she's a failed vice president. She is a failed presidential candidate. So let's reward her and let's make her president. This is how liberalism works.
Yes, that's right. Exactly. Let's
amazing.
Yes. Yeah,
Failure is failure. We'll give you another shot.
that's it. Exactly. That's exactly how it works. Which is, yeah. Well, I mean, and that's really been the story of her career. With no successes at all. From being the San Francisco DA, from being a California Attorney General, a U.S. Senator, as vice president. Nothing. No, there's not one thing that anyone can point to. Well, boy, Harris did this, and that already made a huge difference. And now we'll reward. Hey, now you're president. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, that's exactly the way liberalism works. Anyway, Judy Hotchkiss, our good friend. Thank you, Judy. Always very appreciate your generosity. So Judy says, black men got a Karen scolding from Barack Obama in Philadelphia this week. Yeah, that's what we talked about that. Obama told them that their lack of support for Kamala was not appropriate. Tisk tisk. Yeah, that's exactly right. It was a kind of a remarkable that he took it upon himself to start lecturing somehow the black men, and somehow you're not really shaping up. He, a man of enormous wealth. I mean, he's got, I think, what, 3 houses, 4 houses, 3 big houses. He does nothing all day. I mean, it's basically money's just pouring in. I mean, he's just, every minute of his existence, money just simply pours in. And there he is pretending to be one of the brothers. It's very, very condescending. And I don't think anyone really appreciated it. And he even put on this fake black way of speaking, like he didn't do nothing. He said about Trump, he didn't do nothing. This is a guy who was in Columbia and Harvard, and then he says he didn't do nothing. And he thinks anyone's going to buy into that. And it's so awful. I mean, he's lost his touch. I mean, when he was president, he at least had a certain touch, and he wouldn't try to pull crap like this. He didn't do nothing. So I think this is going to go down badly. I don't think it's going to be moved by this.
I mean, also this is obviously a jab at masculinity. Men cannot accept women in power. This is absolutely ridiculous argument. But I mean, here's the most effeminate of men talking about. I mean, come on. I mean, right. A lot of guys are gonna say, "Who are you to talk to me about being a man?" Okay, right. Look at you. Okay.
Yes. No, that's exactly right. I remember we used to talk at the Gaggle about the interesting who Putin got on well with personally. So we saw, he got on very well with Gerhard Schroeder. He got on well with Berlusconi. He got on well with Trump. And what is characteristic with Schroeder and Berlusconi were kind of, masculine sort of men. They like to smoke. They like to drink. They like to tell dirty stories. I know about Berlusconi. I don't know about Schroeder. But Schroeder looked like somebody who enjoys life. He smokes cigars, enjoys his whiskey. And Putin, I think, responds to that. Trump doesn't drink. He doesn't smoke. But he nonetheless has a certain personality that that Putin.
Yeah, I don't think Putin and Macron have much in common.
Exactly, and it's very interesting. And there are pictures of Putin with Obama, where you can see, but just it's like married couples. You can see, boy, this is a marriage that's on its way out.
You could just see both of them come staring into the distance, not wanting any eye contact. I remember you have the picture in your mind that I have, I'm sure. Okay.
Exactly. They looking, because I think Putin's got he's looking away from him, and he's sort of, his head is hanging down. He's just he just seems despondent at having to be in Obama's presence. And I think that was just some it's an aspect of Obama's personality. I mean, just Obama doesn't come across as a kind of kind of a masculine figure. I think Putin responds to these kinds of masculine leaders, because you're absolutely right. That was the thing about Obama. He was really a very effeminate in every way. He always looked like I don't know. When it came to him and Michelle, it's like we knew who wore the pants in the marriage. Anyway, so Richard Phillips says Trump is an alpha, Harris is an omega. Okay, that's good. And then Dan Rock says, apropos of the Obama scolding, I saw and heard Obama scolding. It was half-hearted. I feel even he knows it's a lost cause. I think that's right. I mean, I think, if you just look at his body language, you look at his facial expressions, it did come across as he didn't really think that that he could change the outcome here. He's basically, I mean, there were no smiles. It was just he just seemed very pissed.
Well, also, George, I mean, it's not about this. When it comes to Obama, it's not about the election, not at all. It's all about him. It's all about him. So where's your Midas touch, Barack? Huh?
Right.
Where's your Midas touch? You screwed up again. You brought in Biden, you screwed up. You brought in Harris, you screwed up. What the next election cycle, do you think all that money is going to keep pouring in? No, he's looking after his brand right now.
Yeah, you're absolutely.
He gives a hoot about black people in America. There's no evidence of that. Does he care about white people in America? There's no evidence of that. He cares about Barack Obama. That's all he cares about.
That's right. But that's the thing. I mean, and that's why it's holding that presidency. That's the prize. It doesn't matter, okay, Republicans can win the House or Republicans can win the Senate. That's not the real prize. The prize is the White House, because that gives you the power of making appointments. That's when you have all the perks. You get your friends' jobs, you get your donors' jobs, you get all the various things that come with power. You're in Congress, you can pass legislation or fail in legislation, you're negotiating the budgets. That doesn't give you power. The power comes from patronage. And that's always been the prize throughout history, the patronage when you control the levers of government. And that's why they're enraged at the possibility that they're going to lose that power. And that Obama knows this. This is, hey, I'm going to lose, because he knows he has an automatic entree into the White House. So anyone he wants to ensure that they get money or a job or all kinds of favors, he can do. And suddenly he won't be able to do that anymore. So he's looking very unhappy.
Well, and then his cachet is diminished. I mean, your road record is kind of spotty. I mean, so he's very diminished right now.
He is very diminished because, even when he was president, he always had a kind of a limited coattails. I mean, he won, big. He won a big election victory in 2008, been big in 2012, but he lost the House majority in 2010, and then he lost the Senate in 2014. So during the Obama year, he was unable to.
He lost all of the state.
He lost a lot of the state houses. So he never had an ability to drag any of the members of the party over the finish line. So it was a personal thing. People kind of liked him then. But as we said, he had a certain touch. He knew how to do things then. Now he's lost his touch. He's been hanging out with rich people for too long, so he doesn't really know how to talk to people the way he used to. And then Richard Phillips says Obama's intervention was insane. How could he think that would have a positive reaction? Treating black men like children. He's totally out of touch. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, people just don't really take to being condescended to. So that's
with that, I don't want to speak out of order here. But don't you think a lot of American black men are kind of sick and tired of being talked down to? I mean,
I think so.
I would assume so. Okay.
I think so, and I think it was clear. That's why we were talking earlier about that poll, you remember that there was one of the issues was, do blacks think the Democrats keep their promises more than Republicans? And it's clear that they don't have much of a margin. I mean, there's still obviously a kind of support for Democrats as opposed to Republicans, but there isn't the margin there. So now, why would blacks not really think that Democrats keep their promises? Well, because they don't think Obama kept his promises. I mean, he was the kind of the hero, and he didn't keep his promises. So I think there's some of this failure among black
Well,
Democrats I think stems from Obama. That in fact, that Obama disappointed them.
well, Obama kept his promises, but just to other people. Okay.
Yes, exactly. So I think that's contributing to this black refusal to rally around the Democratic Party. So Coventry. Can the Democrats question the election after essentially saying it's sacrilegious? Well, that's an interesting. Well,
good point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
here we go again. Yeah.
Exactly.
Election denier. Election denier. Oh, God.
But you're absolutely right, because of course the Democrats have historically always questioned every single election that they didn't win, and that goes back to the 1968 election with Richard Nixon. It goes back to the 1980 election, because remember the 1980 election. Although Reagan won that comfortably, almost immediately there were all these stories for which there was never any evidence that the Reagan people, had secretly met with the Ayatollahs and conspired with the Ayatollahs to keep the hostages back so as not to give Jimmy Carter any kind of an electoral advantage. No evidence was ever presented for this, because surely somebody would have known and would have talked about it, that, hey, these were senior Reagan people who were supposed to have attended these meetings, like William Casey. But nonetheless, this went on for years throughout the 90s.
Well, where do you think we get October surprise, everyone?
Exactly. That's exactly the quintessential October surprise.
And no evidence for it whatsoever.
None.
Not
a shred of evidence. Exactly.
But see, this is again Democrats. The people disappointed them. They're disappointed with the electorate because the electorate turned their back on it. That's the essence of the original October surprise.
It's
the Democrats were disappointed with the people. Okay,
that's right. Exactly.
Keep that in mind. Okay?
That's right. And then of course in 2000 you had the Democrats bitterly thinking the Supreme Court had stolen the election from Al Gore. 2004, they questioned that because they said, "Oh, Ohio, there was the vote was stolen in Ohio," and then, of course, 2016, Putin stole it. So the Democrats have a long history of questioning all elections which they don't win. So now the question, how are they going to play it this time? I think as Peter and I are on the same page, I think they're going to make sure they don't lose it. I think they just outright go to
no. But, what we're doing now is the fun part. Mm-hmm. Then it's going to get ugly.
Right, but I think that they're not even going to get to the point of having Trump declared president. I think it's going to take place even before that.
We're getting this. All bets are off.
Yeah,
all bets.
Exactly.
Make sure. I just caution everyone. You might want to feel that you need to arm yourself and have cash in your pocket because it could get ugly. Okay.
I agree. I agree. So DJ, thank you very much again. For the dogs. I think the dogs are very very grateful. And then DJ says Biden's signature is already on his letter of resignation. Yeah, I think so. Whether Biden himself signed it or whether they told him, sign a blank piece of paper. That was maybe part of the deal in July. Just sign a blank piece of paper, and then we'll fill in the text later. So, I mean, whatever happened in July had to have been a very brutal affair. It wasn't just simply, oh well, you're leaving the election. It was much more extensive than that. I think you have to sign a blank piece of paper.
So and how do we know?
And then we'll fill in the text afterwards.
Look at every single public appearance Biden has made since then. He's pissed off.
Right.
This is like, see, I woke up Apple here. This is what Biden. He even looks a little like Biden with the eyes. It's like, why are you waking me up from my nap?
That's right. Yes. DJ says the only thing not on his letter of resignation is the date. Well, it may just be a blank piece of paper. They may have just decided, later on they're going to fill in the text. But there is, I'm quite sure there is a blank piece of paper, and Joe Biden's signature is.
Well, no, I've said it before. They're just gonna okay, today's Monday.
Right.
Tomorrow morning, you say, okay, so we're moving. Then why? Why? You resigned yesterday. You resigned yesterday. Here's the paper.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Remember? It was after your chocolate chip ice cream. You signed it. And Jill's got the bags. We're ready to go.
The bags are back.
We got the moving van here. Okay, we can take you to Baskin and Robbins on the way out if it's okay. Okay, you signed it. Oh, it's done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Congratulations, you're the 46th president of the United States.
And then DJ says, here's how it goes. Trump wins. Harris contests results. Renter riots ensue. Biden resigns. War breaks out. Harris declares martial law and orders new election. Well, I think, we don't quite have it in that scenario, but, there's something along those lines, I think, is.
Hey, everybody. You have a scenario? Get in line.
And then Leafy Bug says, don't get me wrong. I agree they might well try and tip Biden out in desperation, but they've left it too late. They should have done it when you both first floated the possibility. That actually might have worked. The media could have painted her as the decisive commander-in-chief, calling the shots, rather than the cackling moron we're seeing the campaign. P.S. Sorry, I can't give more. Some months are better than others. Well, thank you anyway for your generosity. Really appreciate it.
I still think they can pull it off.
I think they can pull it off as well, but I take your point. It would probably have worked more effectively had they done it earlier, but they didn't do it earlier. So now, time is certainly of the essence. But absolutely, there's time. 3 weeks. 3 weeks is a long time in politics. You can insert her in. It could be done later today. I mean, who knows what? It's still early on the East Coast of the United States, so absolutely, could be done today. And then suddenly she's going to make a speech before the American people, and she's going to she's going to reprise Lyndon Johnson's speech on November the 22nd, 63. I asked for your prayers. And they'll be all very moving, and she's asking for our prayers. It's something like that. These are working.
And then they'll be, well, where's Joe? Where's Joe?
Where's Joe? He'll be, exactly. Where's Joe?
Where's Jimmy Hoffa?
And let's see. And then the Leaf goes, oh, your analysis to get rid of Biden was spot on when you made it. Honestly, if she'd been president over the last 4 to 6 weeks, there's a good chance that she wouldn't be the clownish figure we see today. Well, she'd always be clownish, but she'd have the aura of the office, and the whole Madam President, Commander-in-Chief, and so on. I mean, I agree. It would have been more effective had they done it then. But they did a deal, with Biden. Hey, you can stay on till January as long as you get the hell out of the way now. That plan, I think, hasn't worked. So now's the time for Plan B.
I think I'm missing something here. These people are absolutely ruthless. Yeah. Why wouldn't it be a possibility?
Yeah, exactly. They're ruthless. You think Nancy Pelosi? I mean, she'd bundle him out of the door 2 days before the election if that's what it needed. I mean,
yep. And where are the keys to your liquor cabinet?
I'm sure she already has her own
they made a copy.
That's right. Goes in at 8 times. Oh, this is a high quality scotch. This is very rare.
The old boozer herself.
Yes. Dan Rock says the Democrats have their own domestic rules-based order, double standards at home. Absolutely. And then Judy says, speaking of patronage, Trump threatens to bring in Musk to clean out the federal bureaucracy. Yeah. This is the man who power washed the Twitter dunk pile, and this week managed to return his Falcon Heavy rocket to its launch pad and hang it from two metal prongs.
I saw that. That was amazing.
Yeah. That's too. I think that would be an interesting appointment, because he really he does have a sense for waste. I mean, a lot of people, who are there for no purpose whatsoever. You remember what people said about him when he basically I don't know what percentage of the workforce he got rid of, and said, "Oh, this is the end for Twitter. There's no way that Twitter will be able to function losing so much of the workforce." And then no one even noticed even the slightest difference. And that's so all these people had all of those perks. I mean, they were living in the lap of luxury, working at Twitter, and so you could get rid of them all, and not didn't make the slightest bit of difference to the functioning of Twitter. So I think he'd be, an interesting appointment. And then really, who cares about slashing the federal bureaucracy? I mean, it's like, good. I mean, that's exactly what you need.
I'm sorry. I guess I haven't said it in this podcast. Is that I think it's very possible that Trump is going to win this election, but I don't think he will be inaugurated.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. But the idea of Musk as the cleaning out of the federal bureaucracy, I think is an appealing one.
George, we're rapidly running out of time here, but how does J.D. Vance fit into all this?
Well, I think that's we talked about that and yesterday in terms of if the Democrats, and we get to the point when the Democrats refuse to certify Trump as president, then will they agree to J.D. Vance? I think almost certainly they will say no. We don't agree to J.D. Vance. Then I think it's going to be the next man in. You'd have to then decide on who's the next man in. But I think it will be difficult for Vance to come in if they refuse to allow Trump.
Yeah, because he's part of the same ticket. So
exactly,
they want to invalidate the ticket.
Exactly, and in fact, in some ways, they might think it's worse because Vance is young. I mean, with Trump, at least you can say, look, the man is, he's approaching 80. He doesn't look like he's in great health. At least I think, hey, there might, there's a chance he might not make it through to the end of.
But I mean,
but Vance is young and healthy.
Yeah, but let's take it a step further. That's what I'm trying to get at here. Okay, there could be all this chaos and all that, but I mean, one has to hope that the dust will eventually settle. But is J.D. Vance now the
heir apparent?
Well, heir apparent, and the one that has been gravely grave injustice against him. I mean, I think there will be an aura around him as what could have been,
right.
And it will cement his position in the party moving forward. He's a young man. I mean, he's a kid.
He's a young man. No, I mean, I think that's a very good point. I mean, if it works out that way, that the Democrats refuse to certify J.D. Vance, then what happens in 4 years' time? Because then, whoever's going to be president, maybe we'll have Marco Rubio will be president. Would Vance challenge Rubio just simply on the grounds that, hey, this is it was illegitimate for Rubio to be president?
Oh, jeez.
You can play around with a lot of interesting.
I'm actually the president.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, Vance will be a key figure in the future, and so absolutely, whether it's in 4 years' time or in 8 years' time, Vance will clearly be the future. But again, we go back to the question of the Democrats. The Democrats really have no intention of letting go of the levers of power, and that's why it's going to be quite difficult for any Republican to win. So, or at least to exercise power in any meaningful way. So it's going to, I think it's going to be quite interesting because we even saw during Trump's first term that somehow it was still the Democrats who were setting the agenda. So, you know, well, you know, we'll have to see. So even if, you know, you could have Rubio as president, Rubio might well do something like pass an amnesty. And, you know, this is a man who, after all, voted for an amnesty back in 2013. He supported an amnesty. You know, he might, you know, do the Democrats' bidding and support a mass amnesty. And once you've got a mass amnesty, then you've got a permanent Democratic majority.
Well, I think we missed a step here for those that don't haven't heard this scenario from George and I before. George and I are assuming, and maybe we're wrong, okay, because we're talking about something that's never happened before. George and I are assuming that it'll go back to the Republican National Committee. They will decide. I mean, if this ticket is invalidated one way or another, there's really no other mechanism but to go back to the party. And so George has posited Marco Rubio. There could be other Nikki Haley. She actually.
Well, I think it's going to be either Rubio or Haley.
Some votes, okay.
Yeah, because I think the key is going to be whom would the Democrats accept. I don't think the Democrats would accept Ted Cruz. So, but I think they would accept Rubio or Haley. I think both Rubio and Haley would support an amnesty. I mean, that's the key for the Democrats. The Democrats, you know, see this as their best way of ensuring that they control power in the United States, which is mass amnesty. And as I say, Rubio in 2013 had supported mass amnesty when Obama proposed it. And therefore, that's quite likely to happen. Nikki Haley would also, I think, support a mass amnesty. And that I think is the crucial, that's what the Democrats care most of all about.
Yeah, because if you get amnesty, then you can reintroduce conscription and start getting
exactly. That's exactly right. Exactly. Make that a condition of citizenship. All right. Well, I think we've exhausted these very interesting scenarios, and our time is up. So thank you, everybody who has joined us. Thank you for all of these very interesting comments and questions. And Apple, not at all a happy camper. And he's going, well, you know, I expect better, as he would put it. But anyway, thank you, everybody who's been with us. We will, of course, be back next week. Tomorrow, I have my solo, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Please join me. But, you know, until then, thank you and see you very soon. All the best. Bye-bye.